So after 5 months of releasing videos, we finally get to the video that you guys have been wanting to see since the very beginning. Here is Method of Scrapes. So this is just an intro video for scrapes. We're going to talk about the fundamentals and the basics of how to play scrapes well and how to play scrapes correctly. So to start, let's just talk about what scrapes are. So if you don't know what scrapes are, it's basically double strokes and rolls where the first and second note of each diddle are on different drums. If done correctly, it is very visually appealing and it's just really satisfying to listen to. But when done incorrectly, it just kind of seems gimmicky. Scrapes is by far one of the most defining features about our instrument, and it's something that every quad player learns at some point. Scrapes also expands our around vocabulary. It allows us to get to drums sooner, and it allows us to play double strokes and rolls passages in different ways, whether it's in terms of paradiddles or just straight triplet rolls. Oftentimes, young and inexperienced quad players tend to skip steps 1 through 5 and go straight to the fast scrapes simply because it's more fun to play. I don't think it's difficult to learn how to play scrapes, but I think we tend to just forego the fundamentals because we just want to get to the fun stuff sooner. But when we do that, we train ourselves to have bad habits, and that prevents us from improving our ability to play faster, more complicated scrapes, let alone playing scrapes well by itself. So before we start fixing the problems that we have, we first have to identify what those problems are. So I'm going to identify a couple different types of tendencies for you guys. The first one being the mental tendencies, and the second one being the physical tendencies. When playing basic scrapes, there are typically 3 tendencies I see in terms of just how people think about it. The first tendency I typically see is people kind of forget how to play good double strokes in lieu of playing the scrapes. A lot of times people do know how to play good double strokes with rebound and quality on one drum, but when they start moving it around with scrapes, they kind of forget all that because they're thinking so much about what drum they're hitting and their zones and all the other stuff. And that leads me into my second tendency, which is sometimes we think too much about what drums we're hitting and not enough about the rhythms that we're playing. Sometimes the changing tones makes it difficult for us to identify what the rhythms are, but we kind of let that go. We just think, oh, it's fine, it's close enough. But in order to clean up scrapes and make it sound good, we have to prioritize the rhythms. And the last mental tendency is just sound quality in general. We don't think about the sound quality we're producing when playing scrapes because we're so focused on the rhythmic responsibilities and the drum change responsibilities and all that other stuff. But if you train yourself to play scrapes correctly, you don't really have to think about sound quality so much because you already developed good habits in terms of how to play into the drum and how to produce a nice sound regardless of what arounds you're playing. So now I'm going to go into some of the physical tendencies we have when playing scrapes. There are a lot out there, but I'm only going to cover the predominant ones. So one of the more popular tendencies I see is the lack of rebound causes our motions to be too small. That kind of comes under the category of just forgetting how to play good double strokes, but that deficit in sound quality and that deficit in rebound affects our arounds too. The second most predominant one I see, and it could be tied first, is just people play with too much motion. Oftentimes people they're trying so hard to play the scrapes big and stuff that they just use all this excess energy, which causes just inefficiency of motion, which directly affects your sound quality and directly affects your rhythms. Not to mention you're just wasting a lot of energy that you could be using for something else. Third tendency is just slicing. A lot of times we try to use the horizontal velocity to kind of help us get across. The more you slice into the drum, the more your sound quality suffers. And the more you're not really controlling your scrapes. You're just kind of letting momentum take care of as much of it for you. And the last tendency I typically see is just not enough arm motion. A lot of people, they don't try to move from up here, so they end up breaking their wrists and they lose control and they lose sound quality, and it tends to cause a lot of physical problems too. So the mental tendencies and the physical tendencies are pretty much just intertwined in the sense that one affects the other and they're all kind of part of the same umbrella of bad tendencies. But the one thing that all of these tendencies have in common are rims. Too much motion, not enough motion, lack of rebound, all of these things it causes us to hit rims. So you can directly trace your rim hittage back to one of these problems. And there are some other tendencies when it comes to more complicated scrapes that we're going to get to in the upcoming videos. But in terms of just playing basic single scrapes and just basic stuff, these are some of the things you need to look out for and identify within yourself in order to fix them. So before we get to the playing, I need to emphasize a couple things to you guys. I'm going to be talking a lot about two topics. The first one being efficiency. We have to build good habits now, because when we start getting faster and all that, there's no room, there's no time to be wasting motion or to be wasting energy, because all that wasteful energy we use in how we move is going to directly affect our rhythms and our sound quality. The second more important topic, in my opinion, or the more important theme rather, is verticality, making sure that we're coming straight down onto the head, making sure that we're thinking about scrapes as a up and down motion more than a side to side motion. In order to produce a good sound, we always have to think about everything we're doing as up and down, because that's the only way we're going to be as precise and as full as we are in one drum. The more we slice and the more we come down at an angle, the more we're losing control over the stick, and the more we're sacrificing sound quality. So I'm going to reiterate many times throughout the next couple videos things that relate to these topics. Another important concept that I'm probably not going to talk too much about are scrape zones. You guys are probably thinking, why would I not talk much about that? The concept of scrape zones is very simple, and it's not hard to conceptualize. All you have to do is hit specific zones. So just to get it out of the way really quick, scrape zones, there are specific zones you play when you're playing scrapes in order to maximize efficiency and to retain as much sound quality as possible. Basically, the rule of thumb is the shortest distance between the two drums you're scraping over. So if you're playing scrapes over 1 and 3, you're going to be hitting right around here, the shortest distance between drums 1 and 3. If you're hitting between 2 and 4, it's going to be right here. 1 and 2, right there. And if you're a Spock scrapes kind of guy or girl, generally right there. But there you go. Those are scrape zones. It's important to hit those zones for motion's sake and for sound quality's sake. But enough of that, let's go ahead and get into actual playing.